So, anyways, thank you so much. And it's a pleasure. I'm a big fan of Rabbi Avi Hill, and I'm very grateful that he invited me. It's a new world. I'm here in Yerushalayim. I live in the old city of Jerusalem, and I can teach from my home, and I don't have to get on a plane and deal with jet lag. And so I'm very grateful, and you all look shining today. Are there more people on the line that are now? There's 21, so there's a lot of.
And we're on Facebook. We're on Facebook as well, Rabbi. So.
Okay. The power of Kabbalah. Let me give you a quick introduction of who I am and what, so to speak, what are my credentials to be teaching Kabbalah. I don't come from a traditional home. I come from a very Jewish feeling home. I grew up feeling guilty all the time, so I knew I must be Jewish. But I'm actually a son of a survivor, and I woke up to my mother screaming in the middle of the night, having nightmares of the concentration camp. So Holocaust consciousness is a very, very big part of who I am and what kind of what kind of moves me. And but I didn't really grow up with Shabbat or all of that. In fact, I kind of was not proud of being Jewish. And I grew up in a Catholic neighborhood. I went to a school that everyone was Catholic there, and I was beat up for killing Jesus. And I told them, I don't even know the kid. I never played with him. But nonetheless, I was beat up for killing him. So, when I was 18, I decided to re-examine myself as a Jew. And I went to Israel, and I was at the Western Wall. I'm curious how many of you have been to the Western Wall? Okay. So I was at the Western Wall. I had this huge red afro. At the time, I wasn't wearing a kippah. They used to give out these cardboard kippahs that look like something you put French fries in. So that was hovering on the top of my head. And I was at the wall, and a very religious looking man. He had long side curls, long black beard. He had a long black coat. He was very kind of long and black looking. And he comes up to me in a broken English and says, I teach Kabbalah. You want to learn Kabbalah? What did I know about Kabbalah? The only thing I knew about Kabbalah is that it's forbidden until you're 40 years old. And I obviously didn't look 40 years old. So a man comes up to me, says, I teach Kabbalah. You want to learn Kabbalah? I know it's forbidden. I say, yes. Kabbalah, Jewish, forbidden. I like that combination. So the man started teaching me Kabbalah. I didn't understand a word of it, but my ego enjoyed being in the presence of a rabbi who thinks I should understand a word of it. But I stuck with it. Many years later, after studying a number of years of these deep secrets, I'm in an area called Geula in Jerusalem. And I'm walking with my friend, and he says, have you ever heard of the Lulav Rabbi? I never heard of him. So, he's a great Kabbalist. He's a great Hasidic master. I said, well, why are you bringing this up? He said, well, today is the beginning of the new month. And it could be that he's hosting an event, because it's common that great Hasidic masters host events on the beginning of the new month. So he says, and the center's right here. So we see that, yes, indeed, there's a lot of people going in and out. So he says, let's go. I said, well, why? What's so special about this rabbi? He said, this rabbi can look right through you to your soul. I said, now I know I don't want to meet this guy. I don't hang out with people who look through my soul. So he said, oh, come on, don't be a chicken. I said, well, why not? So we go inside, and there's a very big hall. There's hundreds of people there, and you've got this Hasidic master at the front. They have a table with food and people around. They were singing, and there's this rabbi was up in the front of the table. And when my friend and I walked in the room, the rabbi went, ha! Started looking in our direction. Well, everybody realized that somebody or something has caught the attention of this great Kabbalist. So they're looking, who's the rabbi looking at? My friend and I were at the back of the room, so we turned to the wall, who's the rabbi looking at? Then the rabbi started to point. So everybody's, who's the rabbi pointing at? And then before I know it, the entire room was pointing at my friend and I to go come speak to the rabbi, you know, the one that looks through your soul. Well, I'm not scared because my friends are always taller than me. So I put my friend in front of me and we start walking towards this Kabbalist. And two of his disciples grab my friend and push him through the crowd. And he starts asking my friend some questions. I couldn't hear it, but I was relieved that I was not going to have to meet this great Kabbalist. But then I heard him yelling in Yiddish, and I understood Yiddish. Where's the other one? I want the other one. And before I know it, I've got these two big guys grab me by the side and start pushing me through the crowd. And now I'm sitting in front of this rabbi. And the rabbi asks me a bizarre question. Where are you an Ashkenazi or are you Sephardi? I'm not sure if you all know what Ashkenazi is or Sephardi. Sephardi are Jews that basically come from like Spain, Northern America, Northern Africa, Morocco, whatever, you know, and Ashkenazi are more from Europe. Now I'm thinking to myself, this could not be a Kabbalist. Like, do I look Sephardi? I mean, I don't look Sephardi. In fact, growing up, people thought I was Irish. I mean, like, I don't look Sephardi. So I said to the rabbi that I'm Ashkenazi. Well, he did not accept that. He said, where's your father from? I said, Russia. He said, where's your mother from? I said, Poland. So he turns to the whole room. He says, he's an Ashkenazi. And I'm thinking, yeah, and you're not a Kabbalist because you don't even know I'm an Ashkenazi. So then the whole room's talking Ashkenazi. I've never thought I'd have to stand up to being an Ashkenazi. And then the rabbi took an apple, dangled it in front of me. And he's going to give me an apple. Okay. So I go to take the apple. And the whole room screams, no. I don't understand what's wrong. The rabbi looks at me, dangles the apple in front of me. Okay. So I reach for the apple. And then the whole room screams, no. And then I see everybody's going like this. And I realize you don't go like this. You go like this. You cup your hand underneath the apple. When I did that, the rabbi smiled. He dropped the apple in my hand. And then two of his disciples grabbed me, pulled me out of the crowd, beat me up, and took my apple. Nah, that part I made up for drama. But they pulled me out of the crowd. You've had enough time with the Kabbalists. You got your apple. Get out of here. So, okay, that was pretty weird. But it got weirder. The rabbi was in his 80s. Suddenly, the rabbi got up and ran to the front entrance of the hall. And there's hundreds of people there, and they all kind of like scramble and part like the sea to let him get to the, but he doesn't go through the door. He puts his hand on the mezuzah and starts to pray. He then turns around again and darts back into the room. And you can see that nobody knows which way this rabbi is going. And he ends up in front of the ark where the Torah is stored, puts both his hands on the ark, and he starts to pray. He then turns around and shoots into the crowd, stops on a dime, looks me in the face and says, what are you studying? What? How did he see me with all these people around? He's running around randomly, stops, turns around, says, what are you studying? Well, I'm at this point 20 years old. And I told him I'm studying Talmud, which wasn't a lie. I was also studying Talmud, although I don't think that was what he was looking for. And he said to me, Talmud? Yeah, which tractate of the Talmud? Well, I didn't lie. I was learning the Talmud of the tractate about Shabbat. So I said to him, Shabbat. And the rabbi looked at me and went, ha, 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 and he ran away. And that was it. And then everybody started shaking my hand. Well, I walked out of there shaking like a leaf. And my friend says, what was that about? I said, I don't know. So why did he ask you if you're an Ashkenazi? He didn't ask me that question. I don't know. Why did he give you that apple in a weird way? I don't know. He said, oh, and why did he pick you out of the crowd? He said, what are you learning? What are you learning? I said, I told you, Talmud. But I did know what happened. You see, what is the difference between this and this? This is taking, this is receiving. Kabbalah means to receive. It doesn't mean mysticism. The literal translation of Kabbalah is to receive. And I believe that this rabbi knew that I'd missed the point of Kabbalah. Why did he ask me, and why was he insistent that I'm Sephardi? Well, it was because at that time I was engaged to the granddaughter of one of the greatest Sephardic rabbis in our history, as well as I had been studying the Sephardic Kabbalists. There's two schools of Kabbalah. There's the Sephardic and the Ashkenazi. What's a nice Ashkenazi like me studying the Sephardic teachings? And I think that's what was going on. I think the rabbi was saying, you missed the point. I want to share with you something called the law of reception, in contrast to the law of attraction, which is really what the Kabbalah teaches. And I'm going to tell you a Kabbalistic story, and it's going to sound a little bit weird, but if you stay tuned, I will decode it. The Kabbalah, in describing how we all came to be, says that in the beginning, all of reality was an endless light. And when the divine wanted to create you and me and this world and everything in it, he caused the light to contract from its center. He pulled the light away from the center and created a spherical vacuum. And in that spherical vacuum, he created vessels, 10 vessels. He then condensed this endless light into a thin ray and gave it to the vessels. But the vessels couldn't take the light. So they exploded, which is referred to in Kabbalah as Shvirat HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels. And that the story of life is to reconstruct the broken vessels so that they will be able to receive the light. And there's a lot more detail to it, but just that itself, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says that all the secrets of our lives and the universe are just in that itself has already got all the secrets. So let me share with you, not all the secrets because I don't know them, but I'll tell you 99.999 of them. No, I don't know, but I'll tell you a little bit about the secrets. I want to understand, what is this light? What are the vessels? Why did they break? Didn't the divine know that they would break? He knows everything. And now that they broke, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to fix these broken vessels? So in order to understand what is this light, we have to ask another question. What is the purpose of the universe? Now, that deserves a course, but right now, we'll give you the social media version of it, the 90-second version. What is the purpose of the universe? The Kabbalah teaches that God created the world to give of his goodness to other. And we are here to receive God's goodness. Now, what is that? So when I think about goodness in my life, when I try to remember a moment that would be the epitome of a moment that I felt so good, what comes to my mind is my mother is sitting beside me and she's reading to me Winnie the Pooh. It was ecstasy. I must have been 18 years old at the time. Just joking. I was 20. No, I was like, I don't know. I was 3-4 years old. My mother was sitting beside me reading to me Winnie the Pooh. And that was the greatest goodness I can imagine. Now, to be honest, my mother didn't read to me Winnie the Pooh because, as I mentioned, my mother was from Poland. So my mother read to me Vinny the Pig. So I would go to school. I talk about Vinny. My friends thought he was a mafia leader. Vinny the Pig. But what was my mother giving me at that moment? She was giving me the greatest gift that every one of us wants in our lives. It's presence. She was there for me. My mother did what God does. She moved everything away from the center. She then condensed her entire presence into this moment and gave herself over to me. And the greatest goodness is to feel the loving presence that somebody is there for you. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants that. And so what does it mean? What is this light that God is giving to the vessels? Who are the vessels? We're the vessels. And what is the light? The light is loving presence. feeling the presence of God in our life is the greatest gift. Now, what does it mean to feel the presence of God? Well, we understand in Kabbalah that God is the universal soul and self of all, the shared self of all of us. To feel the presence of the one self that we all share with each other is the ecstasy of feeling love in my life, feeling connectivity. You know, that Zuckerberg was a smart guy, and he realized there's a commodity that desperately needs to be sold. And what is that commodity? Connection. People are craving connection. That is the greatest goodness. The greatest goodness is to experience connection to God. But connection to God means in Kabbalah the connection to the shared self that all of mankind is a part of. And that is amazing. Okay, so that's the light. We are the vessels. Okay, well, why did the vessels break? The reason why the vessels break is the Kabbalah teaches is because they were selfish. They wanted to take the light. They wanted to take the light rather than receive the light. They wanted to hold on the light for themselves. How do you know that you are truly receiving the loving presence of God in your life? When you want to share presence and love with other people. You know, the idea of the Western idea of you and me, babe, we're going to go off to a mountain and forget about the world. It's just you and me. If you really experience love, then you want to bring love to other people. You know, like as soon as I got married, I wanted to help everybody else get married and be just as miserable as me. I thought that was fair. No, you know, as soon as you taste love, you know that you are under the influence of love because you want to share love. You know, you want to share love. In our tradition, love is not two people staring into each other's eyes. That's very nice. But how long can you do that? Love is two people staring in the same direction with a common purpose to bring more love to the world. Together, we're going to be partners and we're going to bring more love to the world. But these vessels, they wanted to keep the light for themselves, right? They just wanted to take the light. So in Kabbalah, we're supposed to receive in order to give, not take in order to hold on. And so the vessels broke. It's like a wire trying to hold on to its electricity. And you know, in the law of reception, the more you give, the more you receive. And the more you receive, the more you want to give. You know, I experienced that when I was offered a contract for my first book by Simon & Schuster. And I remember sitting with my wife and I said, you know, I'm worried about writing this book. She said, why? I said, well, because if I write up this book, if I put all the teachings that I've researched until now in a book, well, then nobody will want to talk to me. Nobody will invite me to speak. They'll read my book. And then, you know, and it'll be out there and it won't be mine. And my wife said, oh, that's so stupid. I said, if you write it in a book and you give it away, then another book will come your way. And if you give that out, and then another book will come. The more you give, the more you receive. You know, in Israel, there's two bodies of water. There's the Dead Sea, which is appropriately referred to as the Dead Sea because it's pretty dead down there. There's no fish in there. There's no boating on that. It's dead. Then there's the Kinneret, the Sea of the Galilee. And that's alive. And there's fishing and boating and skiing and swimming, and it's alive. One of my students said, you know, Rabbi, you know the difference? The difference is this. The Kinneret, Lake Kinneret, receives its waters from the melting snow of the Hermon Mountains at the top of Israel at the north. And what does it do with the water? It passes it on through the Jordan River. But the Dead Sea takes the water and holds the water. That's why it's dead. When you take in order to hold and to keep, you're dead. You're not living in the presence of love. But when you receive in the order to with the interest of sharing, then you receive more, and you receive more. So what is that light? Loving presence. Who are the vessels? You and me. Why did they break? Because we tried to take the light, keep the light, rather than receive the light in order to share the light. Okay, well, we said God is omniscient. Surely he would know that these vessels are going to be selfish and greedy and just want to hold and keep and hoard. So then why did he give them that taste of the light? So one of the answers is it's very similar to the Garden of Eden. I mean, surely God knew that Adam and Eve are going to get thrown out of the Garden of Eden. In fact, he kind of set it up. I mean, if you don't want somebody to eat a tree from a tree, you don't put it in the middle of the garden, right? If I buy a new computer and I don't want my little son to touch it, would I put it in the middle of his room? Would I then hire his older brother to go in there and say, touch it, touch it, touch it? I mean, this is a setup. Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The tree of knowledge of good and bad is right there in the center. They can see it wherever they are. And then there's the snake, who is the most seductive creatures of all, who's going around trying to seduce them to eat from the tree. So what was the point of putting him in the Garden of Eden if they're going to get thrown out anyways? So the answer is because unless you've tasted the garden, you would never know what you need to get back to. You see, I'm sure there's nobody here on Zoom that has a craving for Gaba Giba. Is there anybody here that is craving Gaba Giba right now? No, because there's no such thing. I made it up. So you can't crave something that I made up. But let's say I don't make it up. Like I had a friend, a non-Jewish friend, and he was traveling in Asia, and he and his girlfriend happened upon a village. The village people were very kind and hospitable. They didn't speak English. They ushered my friend into their tent and offered them a meal. Well, they were eating the meal, and my friend said to him, hoping to somehow communicate, "This is good. What is this?" So these people are trying to figure out what he said, and one of them figured out what he said, and he said, "Monkey." So he turns to his girlfriend and says, "We're eating monkey." So his girlfriend, "Honey, I think he just said monkey." And yeah, they were eating monkey arms. Now, I bet you there's nobody here who's craving monkey arms. Although, really, you can get it now with a heck shirt, soya monkey arms, really delicious, delicious. You know, like nobody's craving monkey arms because you never tasted it. You see, the divine gave a taste of presence, of love, so that we will thirst for it. We come in this world thirsting connection. We come in this world thirsting love. We come in this world thirsting meaning, which means to be part of a greater story. A word that's not part of a story is a meaningless word. It has potential of meaning, but I want to be in a story. We've already tasted the truth. And now we're yearning to get back to it. So then what do we need to do? Let's go over it. The light is loving presence. The vessels are you and me. The vessels broke because the secret is to receive and not to take. To receive and not to take, and to receive in order to share. Why did God give them the light when he knew they were takers and not sharers? Because he gave them a taste of the light. We all have a taste of God in our mouths, so that we'll thirst for God. What does it mean to thirst for God? It means to thirst for good, for peace, for love, for compassion. Now, that's what it means to thirst God. God is the personification of all good. Okay, so last question, then I want to hear your questions. So what do we need to do to fix the broken vessels? We're in a broken world that's thirsty. We're so broken, yet we're so thirsty. The first step to fix your broken vessel is to get in touch with, what are you thirsty? What do you want? What do you really, really, really want? And a lot of people don't know. They don't know what they want. And when you don't know what you want, there is a network called marketing who spend millions of dollars to convince you to want what they want you to want. You want our shampoo. With our shampoo, you're going to feel great about yourself. You want our clothing. I remember I was traveling and I was in a hotel and I couldn't fall asleep. I turned on the television and there was like, I don't know what it was. It was like spiritual. There was this like, it was like the camera was walking through a forest. So it felt like you were walking through the forest, but you could see in the distance this light, this magnetic light. And I said, whoa, what is this? Like, it's like a spiritual journey. And then the narration is, life is a journey. And I go, yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey towards the light of life. And I go, oh, I love it. This is great. What is this? And as you're journeying towards the light, be sure you're wearing Heritage jeans. That's right, Heritage jeans for only $39.99. And I realized it was bait and switch. It was like they took spirituality and then started selling me jeans, which is actually what I'm wearing right now. So, like, what do I really, really want? Do I want all those things? What is it that I want? There was a great rabbi by the name of Soloveitchik, and he describes our generation as a generation that is weak-willed, ill will. Our will is not healthy. We don't know what we want. We don't know what it means to want a relationship. We don't know what we want. But what do we really want? I believe we want to serve good. I believe we want love, peace, compassion, kindness. I think that's what we really, really want. And so the law of reception goes like this. Kabbalah teaches that where you are right now is filled with the presence of God, the presence of love, the presence of goodness. But we're like radios. And if we don't plug in, turn on, and tune into the music, we won't hear it. Like everybody right now in your room, there is Japanese music playing in your rooms. But, wherever you are, I don't know if there's anybody here from Japan, right? And all of us, if we were to turn on our radios, tune in, suddenly that Japanese music would be in our perceptual world. So existentially, the music is in your room, but you need to be a receiver. You need to know how to tune in and receive. So let's go over it, and then I want to hear your questions. The light is the loving presence, the presence of love, compassion, truth. That's what it means to be in the presence of God. The vessels are you and me, but we break when we take. We're in a world, be a go-getter. Terrible way to live your life. We want to be a go-giver. And so they were go-getters. Get the light, for myself. Let me be happy. Let's forget about everybody else. Looking for my own spirituality. I have a friend, she was in an ashram. She was meditating and having an extraordinary ecstatic spiritual experience. Somebody accidentally walked into the room and disturbed her meditation. And the woman who was at incredible inner peace blew up and started screaming at this person that they interrupted their spiritual moment. Yeah, right. That's a go-getter, not a go-giver. That's not a person living in the presence of God. And so the vessels broke because they tried to take, hold, hoard. The law of reception, Kabbalah, is to receive and share. Didn't God know that we'd make a mistake? Yeah, but if you didn't taste the presence of love and peace, the presence of God in your life, and you wouldn't yearn. And so now what do we need to do to begin to build our vessels? We need to practice the law of reception in order to share. And that all I want to receive in my life is whatever I can receive in order to help me be a greater sharing, loving, caring, giving person. And so there was a movie that I think probably all of us saw, which is actually a Kabbalistic movie, but I don't think they knew it was a Kabbalistic movie. It's The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is about a girl who was an orphan and she was living with her aunt and uncle. And then a hurricane casts her away from home. When she was there, she took her uncle and aunt for granted. Now that she's far away, all she can think about is how she can get home. All she misses is her aunt and uncle. But now it's not so simple. She has to follow Yellow Brick Road. And there's a wizard that can help her. And on her way, she meets a guy that needs a heart, and another guy that needs a brain, and another guy that needs courage. And she needs a home, which is basically everything we all need. Brain, heart, courage, and a home. And we need a wizard to give that to us. Okay, well, every good movie needs to have a wicked witch, otherwise there's no plot here. You need the antagonist. So the wicked witch is trying to stop them. But the more she tries to stop them, the more relentless they become, the more persistent they become. And they finally get to the wizard, only to discover that the wizard is not a wizard at all. He's a professor from Kansas City. Has anybody been in Kansas City? Well, I have. And that wizard's from the Kansas City. So anyways, he says, you know what, I can help you. And he says to Dorothy that he's got a balloon that he's been, for some reason, waiting to take off and get a new job, go back to Kansas City and be a professor. He's tired of being a wizard. And okay, fine. So she's kissing all the Munchkins goodbye. She's got a ride back home. But something goes wrong and the balloon takes off. She doesn't get on the balloon. She misses her ride and she's devastated. I mean, here she is, a single woman with all these munchkins. You think you're single. Imagine what she felt like, being with all these munchkins. And she'd have to marry two munchkins standing on shoulders to see eye to eye with one of them. So it's tough. I can make jokes about being short, although you didn't know I was short because this is Zoom. Right? But anyways, so she's devastated and she's crying. Well, suddenly there's this bubble, this white bubble, and there's this beautiful witch, Glinda, which is the numerical value of Messiah. Just joking. And Glinda shows up. Dorothy's crying and she says, Dorothy, why are you crying? And she says, well, I miss my aunt and uncle. I want to go home. I don't want to marry one of these guys. And she's like, I want to go home. So what does Glinda say to her? All you have to do is click your heels 3 times and say, there's no place like home. No place like home. No place like home. Now, when I was a kid, I remember this point of the film and I got really angry at Glinda. I thought to myself, if I were Dorothy and this lady would show up now and say, all I got to do is click my heels 3 times, I would say to Glinda, Glinda, where have you been? What, now you show up? Do you know what I'm going to have to pay in therapy to get the flying monkeys out of my head? So why did it take so long for Glinda to show up? Because it took that long for Dorothy to know that there's no place like home. So many things don't come into our lives because we haven't really gotten clear on what's worth receiving in our lives. As long as we still think our happiness is in that job or that, that new car or that new dress, that's great. Nobody's against that. But real happiness is bringing happiness to other people. Mark Twain has a beautiful teaching. The best way to cheer yourself up is to cheer other people up. And that's what it's about. It's about spreading loving presence, receiving love in order to bring more love to other people. So that's what I wanted to share. And thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's so quiet and nobody disturbed me. But now we're going to unmute you and you'll disturb me. So I'd be happy to hear questions. Now, look, I've done this for over 40 years now, and I know that people are uncomfortable, with, being the first one to ask a question. So we're going to skip the first question. We're going to go to the second question. So we're taking the second question now.
So hopefully Layla can be unmuted. Layla.
I didn't. Why have you come to me?
Yeah, because you put your hand up.
I didn't. I put a clap sign. I'm sorry.
Too late.
Clapping for Rabbi.
Too late, Layla. You gotta ask a question.
I don't know what's. I just love everything you've said so far.
So then it was worth it that we unmuted you. Okay.
By
the way, you can ask questions or you can offer compliments, whatever, makes you feel good.
So while everybody's thinking of a question, it actually just gives me the chance, first of all, to huge thank you to Rabbi David Aaron. I didn't actually get a chance to introduce because we just started so quickly, like the beginning of creation. So a huge thank you to the Rabbi. We're really in the presence of one of the leading educators worldwide. If any of you spend time in the Old City, please go and check out Rabbi Aaron's academy. There is the dean and founder of Israelite. If anyone's interested in books, the Rabbi's got 8 fantastic mystical books, including the famous Secret Life of God, that I super recommend. And some of you have asked me, maybe the Rabbi can say in a minute where he's on Instagram, but if you go to www.davidaaron.com, you'll see a lot of Rabbi Aaron's great talks there that I really recommend. So I just wanted to really thank you, Rabbi, for joining us tonight. And Mitzvah Hashem, you can join us on J Network. Please God, much more in the future, I hope.
Thank you.
Please God. And I want to also give a big shout out and thank to our anonymous sponsor for tonight. But he's so anonymous that I think I can get away with his Hebrew name because there's no way anyone other than me and him and his wife knows his Hebrew name. So I want to give a huge shout out to Label Avram Ben Yaakov. Hashem should bless you.
I know him.
In the merits of the Torah we've learned tonight, Hashem should bless you tremendously. Actually, Rabbi Aaron, he's a huge fan of yours, and he's really excited to that you've been able to share Torah on J Network tonight. So Label, Hashem should bless you tremendously, both in this world and in the next, you and your wife and your beautiful children. Closer and closer to Hashem. So, guys, anybody now? I've given you a bit of time. I give you a bit of time.
Larry had a question.
Okay, let's see if I can find Larry. Here we go. Larry, you should be on.
I'm gonna mute. You gotta sit back.
Am I good?
You're on.
You're good.
All right. Hi, Rabbi.
Hi.
Big fan.
Oh, thank you.
So I guess my question is how important is it to find your unique way to give? I mean, obviously, we all know the traditional ways to give, more charity, being good. But is there Kabbalistically, is there a unique way to give for your soul?
Yes.
Okay.
Each and every one of us has been given talents. Each and every one of us has been given problems. And our problems are just as much an asset to us as our talents. And what we need to look at is our problems and our talents and ask ourselves, how can I uniquely serve to bring greater good into the world through that? So let's take myself over here. So I have a gift of public speaking. I did nothing for this. I didn't study public speaking. I gave a talk at a conference. A fellow who is a coach for public speaking asked me, where did you study public speaking? I said, I never studied it. He says, there's 10 points that a public speaker has to hit to be excellent. Do you know those points? I said, no, I don't. He said, you're hitting all 10 of them? I said, great. I don't know. This is the gift. I don't know. At a young age, I was acting. It's just something that comes natural to me. so that's a talent that I've been given, and I hope that I'm not haughty about it because I didn't do anything for it. It's just a gift. I'm just grateful that. But now, what do I do with this? I could have gone into sales, and I could have sold Coca-Cola, and I could do anything with this. What am I going to do with the gift of gab? Now I have a problem. I'm not going to tell you all my problems. But I'm a son of a survivor, which I already told you, and that's already a package there, right there. My mother was 15 years old. She was put in the concentration camp, and she was wounded, deeply wounded. She was not depressed, but it was not, it leaves a scar. So I grew up really challenged about being Jewish. Didn't think it was much of a gift. It felt like a disease because a lot of people died because of it. And I was beat up for being Jewish. And when my mother woke me up in the middle of the night screaming, I lay there bombarded with questions. Is there a God? And if there's a God, is he good? And if he's good, why is the world so bad? And if we're the chosen people, I wish he chose somebody else. So I was forced to become a philosopher, because of my own pain and my own struggles and my own anger with God and sometimes disbelief in God. And so that's an example of a little bit of what I'm trying to do with my talents and my challenges and my wounds. Is to turn that into helping other people become more, more loving and giving and more connected to the one soul that we're all connected to, which is what we mean when we say God, that there's a shared self that all of mankind is a part of. So, so everybody should look for that, but just know that your problems are just as important, and they will be your greatest asset, They will be your greatest asset if you see it that way. You can use it that way. Very often when I ask people, very often when we were children, when I was a kid, anyways, I don't know about you guys. I was often asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? So all my friends wanted to be hockey players and firemen. Well, my parents told me I was Jewish and I wanted to be a rabbi. I'm not a rabbi. I wanted to be a doctor. So here I am, 4 years old. All my friends are saying football player, fireman. I'm going to be a doctor, And but that's really the wrong question to ask your kid. What do you want to be when you grow up? The right question is to ask, what problem do you want to be part of solving? That's how you can get in touch with a little bit more of your unique service. Is what problem do I want to be part of solving? For instance, me, one of my sensitivities is I want to help single people find each other. I've done 10 matches, and I'm pretty good at this. It's not my profession, but I try to help people any way I can. And so it's a problem that I want to be part of solving. I think there's a lot of people that really are waiting for someone to be in their life. And I feel that's a big problem going on in the world today, a lot of loneliness. So that's a problem that I want to be part of helping to solve. I feel that Jewish education, and for many people, has been soulless. I believe a lot of Jews have been ripped off, that Torah has very, very deep teachings, but we left off our Jewish education maybe when we were in grade 2, and we still think that's what it is. So that's a problem that bothers me, assimilation, soullessness of Jewish life. That's a problem I want to be part of solving. So does that answer your question, Larry? Good. So Larry, tell everybody what your problem is. I'm just joking. You don't have to tell them. You'll tell me privately. All right. Any more questions? Layla now wants to ask a question. When we gave you the opportunity, you said no. Suddenly, just because Larry asked a question, you need to ask a question. Okay, fine. Go ahead, Layla. Go for it, Layla. You want to be unmuted. What power? the power of Rabbi Avihiel can unmute us. Please, I beg you, unmute me.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
The rabbi's service is to unmute the world. Thank
It's
you.
a really tough job doing this Zoom business, let me tell you. So he's doing a great job. I'm just loving everything you're saying, Rabbi. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
What I want to tell you about is, from a very young age, I became a professional singer, and I had the singing teachers that I had were just terrible, right? And they were just there for the money, right? And like I was just another ching. So as I sort of didn't want to be, doing all the music biz stuff anymore, I've now, and because of the pandemic, I'm now teaching singing online to adults and children.
Beautiful.
And I absolutely love it. It's such a blessing because it's not just singing lessons. It's me giving for that whole hour on Zoom, or even if, one-to-one, but just making them feel amazing and giving them loads of confidence.
That's great.
It's
That's
such
great. Rabbi Karlbach once said, why do birds fly? They fly because they're singing, and they're singing because they're flying.
right.
And the more we can help the world sing. You might be familiar with this. There's a fellow in Israel that started something called Kol Olam, I think it's called. You've heard of this? He puts 2,000 people in a room, and he teaches them a song within 1 hour, and he gets everybody to sing the song. It's
Beautiful.
look it up. It's kind of like Kol Olam or something, Kol Olam,
That's really
something
nice.
like.
That's
And
really
it's really moving, that they actually got I think 1,000 or 2,000 people, and he taught them one day from Matityahu, and everybody is singing one day, and it's like, wow, if we just get the whole world to sing together. There's actually a movement called Playing for Change, which is basically people from all over the world that are playing a song together. And so you can see the different musicians, and it's just
Yes.
really heartwarming,
Yeah.
So Hashem should bless you to continue to help people sing their hearts out
Thank you.
and sing together.
Thank you so much. I do have just one question though. Maybe you and Rabbi Hill can relate to it. When I'm very, very busy, I can feel quite depleted after giving and giving. How do I recoup my energy and my, how do you guys do it? I mean, you must get tired at some point, just mentally.
I drink vodka. You do, and that's okay. That's understandable. It's like you have to know how much and how long can you do it, and you have to take some time for you to do some singing. And people think that love is giving, but if there's nobody out there receiving, that's a problem. So love is giving and receiving in order to be able to give more. And sometimes people give, and then they don't give to themselves. Kindness is also towards ourselves. People who are not kind to themselves will not be kind to other people, really kind to other people. So we have to start off with being kind to ourselves. And that's not selfish to be kind to ourselves. It says, love your neighbor as yourself. I know people that I prefer them not to love me like they love themselves. But how am I going to love my neighbor as myself? If I don't love myself, how am I going to love my neighbor? If the person that's closest to me is me, and I don't love me, then it's not going to be good. So we need to learn a lot more practice more self-love, more self-compassion, speak kindly to ourselves. I mean, we can say terrible things to ourselves that we wouldn't want our worst enemy to say. So we need to know, I heard one fellow say something very beautiful. He said, we'd be better off speaking to ourselves more than listening to ourselves. Because when we listen to ourselves, there's all this negative stuff coming up. So we have to talk over it and talk ourselves up. So maybe you're feeling depleted because you're giving too much to them, and maybe you need also a little bit giving to yourself. Not that giving isn't giving to ourselves, but giving to others is giving to ourselves, but sometimes we need to get some time to breathe.
Rabbi, can I ask a quick question? Am I allowed?
Sure.
So again, you're in the old city. So there was a young man from South Africa, just in the old city, who's the grandson of one of my friends, Rabbi Shlomo Levine, who was tragically killed by the
Yes.
terrorist attack on Sunday. So if Hashem's all about love and all about giving, and God can do anything he wanted, he could have created any design he wanted. Why on earth how do you understand, how do you deal with the fact that he created a world where there is such pain and such trauma out there?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm so grateful that you asked that question, because it's a sure sign that you think I'm the Messiah. And I think that's really great that you think I'm the Messiah, and that I could answer that question. Moses asked God that very question, not that specific case, but why do righteous people suffer? And he didn't get an answer. So I really appreciate that you think that I could give an answer. I can't give an answer, but I could give a course that would at least contextualize it and make some sense out of the madness of this world. But totally, no. I mean, look, I live in the old city. My son was very close by to the shooting. And a friend of mine said that he's thrown out the word why a long time ago, and he's felt happier. Like, to keep asking why. I once heard a story that when we leave this world, all the whys that we have and all about God will be answered when we leave this world. So now the question is, are you in a hurry? Well, I'm not in a hurry to leave this world to get those answers. And quite frankly, a big part of what we need to do here in this world is to make choices precisely in a context of not knowing these kind of answers. So that's a little bit of the direction. I encourage people to take a look at my book, The Secret Life of God, where I address that more. But bottom line, I'm willing to cut God some slack. I mean, I look at my finger and I say, this is pretty good. I mean, this is actually quite ingenious. And that's just my finger. What about that? What about my eyeball? So we are faced with infinite wisdom everywhere we turn. And then there's terrible, horrible news that doesn't seem to be wise at all. And so I'm willing to cut God flack that there's some bigger story going on that we don't know. And we're just going to have to be patient. So forgive me for coming
Camilla's
out.
been trying to ask something. I do apologize, Camilla, but can't seem to unmute you. If you put it on chat, then, oh, you're on. Camilla, you're on. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And sorry for being without a camera today. I'm not just feeling well. I'm a little bit sick. So let's go to don't waste your time, guys. We have been like the raising of neo-Nazis groups around the globe, and we are trying to protect the Kabbalah, the Torah. We have seen like people infiltrating inside our Jewish groups, especially we are talking around the globe with youth guys. And since the rabbi told about giving more and explaining more the Torah and everything, like encrypting things, and we are seeing that few groups are pretending to be Jewish and using our acknowledgements of Torah and Segulat in the wrong way. What is a good advice you give to us to protect our community? Because we all feel unsafe now, especially after this last shot that we knew, guys dying, and we feel literally unsafe. What's the protection you think that we should perform now to protect the acknowledgement of Torah, to don't leak it?
Well, that's a really important question, but I don't think there's a shortcut to the answer. I think the answer is better Torah education. I think there are a lot of Jewish people, in America. I read some article that said 1/3 of the Buddhists of America are Jewish. And some of them proudly call themselves boo Jews, which are Jews that are going around scaring people. Boo. I don't know what a boo Jew is, but and a friend of mine, his mother is a boo Jew, and she told him that she has not met one Buddhist leader in America that is not Jewish. That the Buddhist leaders in America that she's met so far are all Jewish. So Jewish people tend to be very idealistic and spiritual, and and so why would these people go to Buddhism if we have our own path? Because they don't know our own path, or what they know about our own path is something they heard when they were little children, and so they've got a childish image of God, and now they're adults, and they think, well, Judaism has nothing to offer me because, imagine you were forced to be in grade 2 for the next year. What would that feel like? Hell, because when I was a grade 2 kid, I was happy in grade 2, but if I'm able to be in a PhD program at Harvard, but I have to be in a class in grade 2, that would be hell. So a lot of people have a very delinquent understanding of our tradition. And the only way to go, but this is going to take time, is we need to up our efforts to do the kinds of thing that Rabbi Avi Hill is doing, to share more Torah, and in a non-judgmental way. My goal here is not to convince anybody of anything. I just want to share. I found something that has given my life tremendous meaning and tremendous, energy. And so if you got something good, you share it. So, each one, reach one, teach one. If you enjoyed what happened tonight, then make it, your mission to tell one person about this, and that would exponentially start to grow. But everybody should, people write me, I really loved your book. It was life-changing. Thank you. The greatest gratitude you can show me is tell another person about the book. So together we can do this. But right now, most Jews are pretty uninterested in what Jewish wisdom has to share, are pretty confident that Judaism doesn't have much to share that's worth listening to, and that's sad. And a lot of people think that this is about being religious or orthodox. Let's forget about that. This is about life. Judaism is not about Judaism. Judaism isn't even interested in Judaism. Judaism is about life. I teach life according to the teachings of the prophet Moses.
I've got time. One more question from Rivka. Rabbi?
Sure, of course. I'm not in a hurry.
Rivka?
Okay, hi. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Hi, Shalom Rabbi. I'm a huge fan, and I did turn my brother on to you and your books, so I am passing on your wisdom.
Thank you. Where are you?
And I'm a redhead. Huh?
Where are you?
I'm in Manhattan, New York City.
Wow, the
Yeah.
technology is unbelievable. The quality of your voice is unbelievable.
It's amazing, right?
It's
Baruch
like
Hashem.
you're living in my computer. You sure you don't live in my computer?
Maybe I do. Maybe
Okay.
I do. Redheads, we have a secret bond.
Oh, you're
let me ask-
redhead. I couldn't tell from the non-picture. Okay,
Yeah,
go
well-
ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm not made up enough to go on camera today. Okay, so you
I'm
mentioned the
not-
Mashiach. Yeah, but you look good. So you mentioned the Messiah, and a lot of, I grew up in a conservative home. It wasn't discussed. And then I kind of Baal Tshuva as much as I, my version of it, and dove into Hasidus and to Kabbalah. And, it's all about Mashiach coming, especially if you're a Chabadnik. And so I'm just wondering what the Kabbalistic take on what Mashiach really means, like literally what you think will happen when that moment happens, God willing soon. And what do you think, like realistically, not from a textbook, not from, the book of Daniel, not from the Zohar, what you think is going to happen when one day Mashiach, quote unquote, comes in? What does that mean?
Right. Well, I'll share with you the teachings of Rabbi Abraham Isaac Kook, who was a great Kabbalist and Talmudist. There's a verse, Ruach Apenu Mashiach Hashem, the blast of our nostril, the breath of our nostril, the spirit of our nostril is the Mashiach. Rav Kook explains that within every single one of us is Mashiach, a spark of Mashiach. And when we release enough of the spark of Mashiach within us, then the manifestation of a person, I personally think it's a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Mashiach, will show up. And so what does it mean to release that Mashiach spirit within each and every one of us? Goes back to the theme here. How much are we looking to liberate ourselves and others from their pain and their suffering and their limitedness? And when Mashiach comes, really, Rabbi Nachman says that the word Mashiach comes from the word sicha, which means dialogue. The power of Mashiach will be the power of the word. And he will have the ability to speak in a way that will create world peace. And that is really the job of Mashiach, which is to create world peace, to conduct dialogue that will enable us to really talk and respect each other. And so it's not some supernatural things going on that comes later, but the first step is world peace, where people will realize that war is just so stupid. Like, I mean, like, how primitive is that we should be killing each other? What is wrong? You'd think by now we would get it. We don't get it. The hate, as long as we love to hate more than we love to love, this is going to continue, but there's too much loving. People love to hate. It's very powerful to hate. There's a lot of energy in hate, and it's a lot harder to love. And so to me, I see Mashiach as the one that will conduct and could possibly be someone that rises to power politically. I don't know. Actually, I think we're very much in the Messianic age just because of this technology. How is it possible that one person could talk to the whole world? How is it that I'm talking to somebody in Manhattan and somebody in England? Where else are some? Let's get some exotic places that people are in. Let's hear some exotic places that people are in.
We're in Africa tonight.
Sandra, where are you?
Saying there's Africa, there's Turkey.
It's Turkey. That's great. It's Thanksgiving. I love Turkey. Okay, what else is there?
Germany.
Germany, Switzerland. Do you understand? I'm Mashiach. No, I'm just joking. Avi Hill is. Right? The fact that we now have the technology, right? It's called Mashiach media. Really, that's social media. It's soul shul media. That's what it's about. We really have in place the technology for Mashiach to show up. If somebody could take the mic and start to talk a language that everybody will listen to and wake up and say, this is really nuts what we're doing. Why are we killing each other? Well, couldn't we help each other? Israel doesn't want to be at war with anybody. Our army is called the Israel Defense League. We're only at war in defense. We don't take offense. We don't do that. We're only protecting ourselves. We would be happy to not have to fight. Why are we doing this? You'd think by now anti-Semitism would be really passé, hating people just because they don't even look different. I was hated when I was a kid. I didn't even look different. They didn't even know. What did they know? They just knew I was called Jewish, but I didn't look different. It's just poor education. But this is my belief. My belief is people are hurting people. Do you hear that? people hurting are hurting people. When people are hurting, they go around hurting other people. And so we have to help people not hurt so much so they won't start hurting other people. And there's so many people in pain. There's just so many people in pain. And so my invitation to all of you is, when we're finished, you've got power in your hands. You could send a text. I encourage you to send a text to someone that you haven't been in touch with for a while and write them a kind note. Thinking about you, it's been a while. We spent some special times together and I'm just sending you my blessings. Do you know how that would change the world? So easy. You know, it doesn't cost anything. A kind word doesn't cost anything. And yet it changes people's lives. Accept upon yourself that every day you will give a genuine compliment to somebody. You know, how many of us got a compliment today? I got a couple. That's really great. I'm very blessed. I get compliments, you know. A lot of people, I make it part of my service to try and compliment people. So I want to compliment all of you. I want to especially compliment Rabbi Avi Hill for the amazing work that you do. You do it with all your heart and soul. And it's all about being in service. It's not about your ego. And I know that. And I want to thank all of you. You were all very, very kind to listen. And you were all so quiet. It's amazing. And thank you so much. People asked if I have an Instagram. I do have an Instagram, but I'm not really posting anything on it just yet because I'm social media illiterate. But in the next couple of months, I am going to be building my platform in a much more wider way. So really appreciate the kind words, and you should all be blessed to know what you want and receive what you want, and know that there's so many other people that are also waiting to receive what they want and be in service.